Joyce, you're recognized for your 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Eshu and Ranking Member. This is a great opportunity to be with you here today, Secretary. I'd like to return to some of the remarks that you made earlier when it didn't seem clear that you understood what my colleague, Mr. Bilirakis, meant by the term partial birth abortion. And I think that it needs to be defined as it is in statute. Section 1531 of Title 18 U.S. Code is literally titled partial birth abortions prohibited. Partial birth abortions prohibited. That statute very clearly defines that this inhumane procedure in Section B, subsection 1. So now with that clarification, could you please recognize that that does exist in statute? And I would ask you, do you agree that this law is correct?
Congressman, thank you very much, and thanks for trying to clarify. I think I understood the question, and I think I understand your question as well. What I'm trying to explain is that the term partial birth abortion may be recognized in politics and by politicians, but it is not a medically recognized term. Perhaps if you were to talk about what you probably know as dilation and extraction, which is a procedure used by OBGYNs like my wife to care for a woman who is having a difficult pregnancy, where there's a chance that the fetus will not survive, then we can talk about that. But what I'm saying to you is that under the law, a physician or any provider of healthcare must make sure that he or she abides by the law. And right now, what our law says, and it's pretty settled, is that a woman is entitled to reproductive rights. And so my question is not so much with the term partial birth abortion, is with what the rights are of a woman under our statutes and under our precedents to provide her with reproductive care that she's entitled to. And as my wife would tell you as an OBGYN, is that the dilation and extraction procedure that is often used, late stage abortions for women, it's to protect the health and life of that woman.
So just for further clarification, partial birth abortions are prohibited right now under current statute, and that is something that you recognize, correct, Mr. Secretary?
Congressman, as I said, I recognize that the law provides women with reproductive rights, and that the Roe v. Wade decision made very clear under what circumstances women can exercise those rights. I will do everything I can to make sure we comply with precedent and the law when it comes to protecting a woman's right to her reproductive health.
And that does include enforcing this statute, correct?
I will make sure that we are providing women with the protections they need on their reproductive rights. And again, with all due respect, I know that this is a very sensitive issue for a lot of folks, but I think most medical practitioners will tell you they understand what a dilation and extraction procedure is. I doubt that most of them can give you a medical definition of what partial birth abortion is.
As a physician myself, Mr. Secretary, I think I clearly understand what a partial birth abortion is. Let's move on at this point in time, please. And I see we're narrowing down. During your tenure as a California Attorney General, you sued the federal government to protect a California regulation that required churches to pay for abortions in their healthcare plans. You also sued the Little Sisters of the Poor, seeking to force a Catholic group of nuns to pay for contraception and abortions. During your confirmation hearing, you stated that you would recuse yourself from participating in matters related to litigation you pursued against the federal government. Would you provide for us a list of every matter from which you would personally recuse yourself?
Congressman, first to respond on the actions that I took as the Attorney General. Again, as I said, I respect that there are different deeply held beliefs on the matter of abortion. And what I did when I was Attorney General was comply with the law and enforce the law. But I will say to you, to correct the record, I never sued any nuns. I never sued any organization that had religious exemptions. What I did was I took actions to make sure that providers who are under obligation by law to provide services to all people, including women who are pregnant, did so. And so, however it might be described, The reality is that I simply protected the rights of Americans to get the health care that they're entitled to under the law. I forgot now the second part of the second question that you had.
The second part asked you to include a list of any matters that you personally would recuse yourself because of previous litigation.
Yeah, and I made it clear when I was getting confirmed that I signed an ethics agreement not to involve myself directly with any matters in which I was directly involved in litigation as Attorney General for the state of California.
Right, and the gentleman's time is expired.